This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
This episode is brought to you by Honda. Introducing the all-new, all-terrain Honda Passport Trail Sport, the most off-road capable Honda Passport Honda has ever dreamt up. The Passport features increased ground clearance, roof rails on all trims, and available specially developed all-terrain tires. And you'll stay comfortable with tri-zone climate control and available features like heated and ventilated front seats and a panoramic moonroof. Learn more at honda.com/passport.
Oh, the sick day struggle is real. But with Dimetapp, it doesn't have to be. Children's Dimetapp works quickly to soothe multiple bothersome cough, cold, and allergy symptoms in a single dose. Our fast-acting formulas are designed with kids in mind, so they get everything they need and nothing they don't. Available in liquid and on-the-go chewable tablets. Tap the banner now to shop at Amazon and say goodbye to the sick day struggle with Dimetapp. Use as directed.
It's really cool. Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rosbif Rugby podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby. Top 14, Pro Day de Nationale Nibbles, the Champions Cup, the Challenge Cups, and of course, most importantly, the brilliant cities, towns, stadia, fans, bars, restaurants, cuisine, everything that makes the French rugby experience so fabulous. And I'm joined as ever by a man who is fully immersing himself in that experience as we speak. Joined live on the ground, our Pyrenees correspondent, Rob. What's news? How's your trip going?
It's going very well, thank you, Richard. I'm not going to lie. I thought the south of France in late April might be a little bit sunnier and warmer, but generally it's been pretty good. We got a nice bit of sun yesterday. Some of the lads got burnt. I didn't somehow, and yeah, today was a bit miserable. So we've kind of had a little bit of a down day in terms of just doing a few other things, bits and bobs, but back out to tackle some sort of horrific Col Tour de France stage type thing tomorrow, which, bearing in mind how my legs fared on a gentle jog this morning, I'm nervous about, but we'll get through it.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you're holding up. Like, I didn't realize you had the sort of tour stages in you, Rob, I'll be honest, but you're flanked in the background by some very smart looking road bikes.
Well, remarkably also I seem to have a cap and pair of socks that matched the colour of these bikes. So it did genuinely look like I was sponsored by Bianchi while I was out on the road. I think if you saw the spare tyre around the waist, you might not have agreed. But yeah, no, I mean, it's all one big learning curve. I'm getting better ride by ride.
Would it, before we get into some rugby, would it be fair to say that, so you've had a couple of days on the hills, on the bike, today, downtime, I've seen some footage from Les Owls. Would you say today's been the day that you've really come into your own?
Possibly, yeah. No, Saturday
been down the
butchers.
Day
for that. Yeah, I did go to the butchers today, and as we were just planning our logistics in the break, I'm going to have to sear a côte de boeuf for dinner. So a roast beef doing roast beef things.
Very good. Very good.
How are you? You been all right? You've been ill?
Yeah, I've been sort of like mildly ill. Nothing too critical, but one of those, I don't know, like just got the kind of post-Easter lull and was.
You've been dipping your head in algae-laden waters again.
No. Oh my God! You actually, I say that I did.
Well, you were outdoor swimming, so
oh God,
there's correlation here, Richard.
I was about to say, no, I haven't. After my exploits during the World Cup trip, I have, but I did make a very pointed effort not to get my head under. And everyone else who we were doing this slightly bizarre but very fun. It was called the Secret Sauna. So at 8 a.m. I was somewhere in a field in Suffolk, back near where I'm from, going in and out of between a sauna, which was too hot, and a river, which is too cold, which, afterwards you feel great, but during it was a little bit dicey. The heart was going at a rate that I didn't realise could be, it was, I had in me. So
Do you think that
Maybe
maybe
that was it.
contributed to your illness, going from sweating to shivering cold and back again? That feels like a kind of recipe with some natural water. That feels like a recipe to catch a cold, if you ask me.
Yeah, you're never really shivering cold though. That was the only thing because the time outside is so minimal. But I would agree it's probably a little bit of a departure from my usual routine, and therefore it may have contributed, but we don't know.
It's that blooming
Um,
algae. It's got you again, Richard.
the
You safety.
algae and oysters, my two Achilles
Yeah.
heels. Yeah, if anyone ever wants to take me down. But yes, otherwise all good. I did catch a little bit of the rugby at the weekend, which was good fun. Let's get into it, and let's get into the top 14 and something of a, if not a pilgrimage, because you've been once before, this incarnation of Rob as the section Palois diehard, probably your first trip since your Damascene conversion to that. First of all,
First trip since we started Ros Beef. So the first time was back in November 2021. We started Ros Beefs in January 2024. So it's taken me 15 months to get to my French rugby spiritual home, but I was back.
and the grounds, the match day experience, the important stuff before we talk about the sideshow, the rugby. How does it add up?
Well, as you will well remember, Richard, when we went last time, A, we were late thanks to some slightly dodgy logistics from probably the one person on that trip we shouldn't have trusted with logistics. And B, it was glorious. It was a glorious autumnal day. Well, this time round, we got our logistics all right. We kind of had a few things to sort out with the bikes and check into the Airbnb. Made it to the ground kind of just before 2 o'clock, but there was quite a hefty queue, and the queue was basically umbrellas, and it was sodden already. And then also it was one of those things where like you can tell they're getting close to kickoff, and the pat down was barely. It was less contact than Nolan Le Garrec suffered to his face on Saturday. Let's put it that way. But we were ushered in pretty quickly. But we kind of had enough time to, well, just about had enough time to get some beers and some food before we got to our seats. So I kind of we divided and conquered, and I was like, just that looks good. It's some sort of beef baguette. Go and get that. I'll have one of them, please. 2 jugs of lager, which I think was Old Darky, which I think is the one that they have at Biarritz as well, and possibly Bayonne. But it was absolutely delicious. I think it's a Basque lager. It's absolutely delicious. And we got to our seats probably about 5-10 minutes to go. Right in the corner, we were front row, and I was really worried we were going to be like, almost some front row seats, because of the camber of the pitch, you almost can't
Yeah,
see anything.
yeah,
But actually, it was slightly raised, so we actually had a really good view, and we were kind of
fantastic.
right in the corner. But the on Armada, the fan section that's particularly rowdy, was kind of on that end, so not too far from them, and also seemingly not too far from where the players sit, because spotted Maxime Lamotte, Remy Piquet, and Emilien Gaetan, who was looking very
Ah,
sharp in a Poe puffer jacket, some blue chinos, and some white shoes, just looking sharp.
okay.
I think he might have made it into the sartorial team at sartorial
Yeah,
15 at outside centre, because I don't think there's any candidates there so far.
interesting. Yeah, I was going to say, do you reckon he's been spending a bit more time with Jean-Baptiste Gros and Michael Guillard in the French setup, and it's
Maybe
just threads are looking better off the back of it.
he must
Oh, I'm
on
glad.
a rugby point. He must be quite close to coming back, because I feel like it
Hmm,
was a 6 week injury. It was like middle of the Six Nations, wasn't it? I reckon he's got to be pretty close. He was walking all right. Not that that means absolutely anything when it comes to fitness for rugby, but yeah, just to finish up on the ground. So obviously we had the beef baguette, which was kind of a kind of stewed. I don't know, what would have been like brisket, I guess. It was absolutely delicious. Pretty solid start to the day. But we then later on, as we kind of went out to the gents at half time, you're just hit by that smell of duck fat fries, and it was like, oh, I'm gonna have to get one of them later. And it was a steak. I think it was onglet, no, bavette with chimichurri and said duck fat fries. And as I've said before, a little side salad with a really good dressing. Something that's very, very underrated in French cuisine. The kind of the quality of the dressing on the pathetic little salad makes it not pathetic.
oh,
And
that
then
sounds
obviously,
delightful.
as you well know, the pièce de résistance was the true homecoming to the pilgrimage, was the baguette of duck breast with foie gras basically serving as the butter, and a fig compote in a baguette, which is just
Phenomenal.
elite. I don't think anything can beat that. On a we've been to Provence with all the seafood bar. I just think the quality of the meat offerings, not great if you're vegetarian. But
You can have a limp salad and a nice dressing.
I think there was some sort of mushroom baguette, maybe, which was seps as well, which is how often do you
Oh,
see
nice.
kind of wild mushrooms at a rugby ground? But yeah, it was. I think that's kind of got to the top in terms of
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
match day food,
I
and also the
saw
lager was great. Didn't need any pesh at all
I
throughout the
saw
day.
I saw a couple of photos. It looked like they're pretty reasonable as well. It was like €7.50 for a baguette or something
Yeah,
to that effect. That's very, very agreeable.
yeah. I think the
Um,
steak baguette was like 10, which was pretty reasonable given the quality, and then the steak and chips was a little bit more. I think that was like 12 or
no
13. But it was
no
basically like proper steak and chips.
no sauce palois knocking around, which I think we discussed in
No,
our
that
first ever episode.
there was a pitta sauce, or like pitta kebab, which I didn't have, but I was just intrigued to know what was in it. I assumed some sort of
It's a
minty,
sauce.
garlicky
Mm.
mayonnaise type thing.
Like a French writer.
Yeah,
Delightful. And then after that, after all that excitement, and I could hear you heavily breathing slightly there, discussing the foie gras baguette, the main event itself must have been pretty heartbreaking, going down to 26-22, fairly late in the piece.
I was raging, Richard.
Did you you're raging? Did you hold it together? Could you see the as the sun shone, because the first half, and as you say, the cue looked like it's been played in fairly moist conditions, to put it mildly, but the sun did
As was
very
the
little
case in
to.
most places. There was one game, what was it? There was one game, I think it was La Rochelle, maybe, where it's literally like chucking it down immediately before half time, and they come out
Uh,
and the restart is in
Perpignan.
Perpignan,
Perpignan
yeah.
Racing.
And
It's
the
like two
restart is in
different
glorious
days.
sunshine. It's like, what? That was 15 minutes ago. It's like pitch black. No, it was glorious sunshine in the second half. And what was your question?
It
Wow,
was
I did hold
how
it
gutted
together.
were you?
I did hold it together better than the woman a couple of seats along from us, who there was quite a few putans and or where they go, putain, like that. Yeah, and I think her husband tried to say, oh, it's not that bad, and he was basically shouted at and then just slunk off while she was sat there just like rocking back and forwards in rage.
Excellent.
So I held it together better than that, but I was very angry just because we kind of threw it away. It's an interesting one because the guys who you could lay the blame, who you could pinpoint as being in the action when the kind of chances were spurned, were actually both brilliant, and they're both really young guys. Like Browbury is 19, Desperez is 21. The drop goal, we thought it was over, and so did most of the stand behind it.
Wow.
It just went one side of the post, but he's not given himself that much time. It was very casual, but it was like, he's going in the pocket. He's in the pocket. He could go a bit further back in the pocket, but he's kind of on the edge of the 22 and very lackadaisical, and he should get it. And he was brilliant for the rest of the day. His goal kicking was 100%. His tactical kicking was really good.
The bits I caught of it, I was kind of a little bit in and out. I probably saw half the game just through watching it kind of on in the background, and everything good that I saw sort of seemed to come through him. I thought he was great and really authoritative, as you say, put them in really good places, particularly in the first half when conditions were looking a bit dodge. He was very impressive.
Yeah, and then the guy, so we were that was right by our end, the drop goal, as was the spurned chance from Fabien Braubery, who, if that's a try, it's a phenomenal finish because he beats two defenders to get to the line. Like that's his kind of, he's got that real skill of just, it's not quite the kind of Jamie Roberts kind of over the gain line, but I'm trying to think who it would be like, of just shuffling round like the first defender and getting beyond the gain line, but not necessarily explosively, but kind of, you're not like your Tuolangi over the gain line or Dante.
That ability to almost gain a yard just in the head rather than pure.
I tell you, it's like a bit like
ballast.
Fiku. Like Fiku kind of just will step a man, has enough ballast to get through the man, and he's kind of, before you know it, he's sucked in two defenders and they're over the gain line. And we were right, but I mean, we could see it. The angle we had, as soon as he's over the line, all three of us went, he's dropped that. And when it went to the TMO, we were just praying that there wasn't an angle from the angle we were on, and for ages there wasn't, and then it finally came. It's like, yeah, you can see, but it's actually a very good strip from Lescourge, which is, he's got Lescourge is the third man on him. This is a guy that's 19 and he is like powering through people with a bit of guile, like just a seriously impressive player. And we've spoken about him before, but I think he really is like despite that error, he is the real deal for at 12 for France. I think he'll be a phenomenal. He could well tour this summer. I think he's that good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And speaking of the real deal, obviously a guy who in our first few episodes ever of the podcast we were shouting about is now in front of a wider audience. Just how good in the flesh was Teo Atisogbe, because from many miles away, I thought he looked almost, I don't know if he's just growing because he's so good, or I thought he just looked all the brilliant stuff and like a little bit stronger and a little bit better in the air. He looked amazing. So what was it like in the ground?
He's breaking tackles, isn't he? I think like some of his aerial stuff was outstanding, like kind of Falau at his in the early days, kind of the overhead Aussie rules style, but just, he's winning battles against guys like Bielbieri, Penaud, Carberry, like fully fledged international players, just comfortably winning them. His kicking game is, for all the electric skill, there was one moment of like real electric spark from Atisogbe, which I think led eventually to a try, but there was a few hints where it was like, Poe not going that well in attack, but you just need to get Atisogbe. But like the guys were kind of like, you just need to get Atisogbe the ball. Like he seems to be the one it's quite interesting when you go with people that aren't there as quite as badgery as we are. And as I think you've said it before, like when someone like with the Luku thing at Exeter, like someone's kind of seeing someone, when someone's seeing a player in the flesh for the first time and they don't know that much about him, they just go, you just need to get him the ball. And it was that his kicking game is incredibly underrated. I think it's brilliant. He's the real deal. He is the real deal. I don't know whether he might even become a fullback because, he did have the other guys on the wing there. The other young player that we have spoken about positively and negatively a lot, who I was really impressed with because the Poe line out was excellent, was Hugo Oradou. I thought he ran that line out really, really well. And Jimmy Maximan, his kind of second row partner, was brilliant. He really put himself about.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Maximan, because he obviously Oradou's tall, but he's light, whereas Maximan looks like he's really in that kind of fashionable tight headlock mold, isn't he? Like he's not Math or Skelton yet, but he's massive. And I saw this guy playing and I was like, I genuinely didn't know much about him. And he was at Rouen last year, I think, or the year before.
Yeah, I think he was at Rouen. He started at Rouen, I think. There is another, he's got a brother somewhere.
Played a little bit at Montpellier, but he looked every bit a hell of a weapon to have in your pack.
Yeah, he was really good. I've seen bits of him and I was kind of quite encouraged when I saw him. I think I've kind of roughly worked out like which players I'm excited by when I see them on the Poe team sheet and not, and kind of Maximan is one of those. But yeah, really impressive, really industrious, deserved his try. The other player who I thought was really good, who I've kind of been a little bit dismissive in the past, was Luke Whitelock. I thought he really like pulled down or snared in Louis Bielbiere at one point, which is some fair effort.
Yeah. And this, I guess, ultimately, we spent a lot of time talking about Bordeaux, but this one clearly meant a lot. A pretty chained side, albeit with their kind of flyers out wide. And so it transpired that Louis Bielbiere simply literally cannot stop scoring.
Wow, Richard,
pretty outstanding try.
You say their flyers outside. Flyer, I think we were very much in the has Damien Penaud tied up his laces sort of day. He did absolutely nothing apart from give the pass that kind of got that attack going. And the thing about that attack, and yes, Bordeaux did win. Carberry was very good. I thought Falatea was man of the match, and he was very, very good at scrum and in the loose. Got a try. He was really good. Put himself about lots of tackles. That try obviously was kind of the difference, completely the difference, and it came from a really good period of attack. It was just after the Browbury spill, and Tokolai, he just decided to pop the ball to some of the kind of interplay from the Poe forwards was either very good or absolutely dreadful, and that was an example where he just passed it to a Bordeaux player. But it was almost like as soon as Bordeaux got the ball, as soon as it got to, probably even before it got to Penaud, it was like, this is going to be a try.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, shit. And then as soon as it got to whoever Penaud passes it to, it's like, this is a try. And, well, I mean, it was an obvious forward pass at the end to Bielbiere. It was, I don't know how the ref's not called that one back, but no. And also, he skips past Browbury, who's making up some decent yards, and then skips past Manu. they both kind of, it's almost like a domino effect, isn't it? Of like both
Yeah,
trying to attack.
it's 10.
The ironic thing, I think you can say it in hindsight, but like I think Tamur Manu, if he stays on his feet, would have eventually got back to, because of the like slow down of pace of the interchange. But obviously you're not thinking like that when you're in the heat.
I think I saw a little slow mo of it. I think it's 10 steps and he's gone. It's quite remarkable. Yeah. And I suppose to round it off, I mean, it clearly meant a lot to Bordeaux, this one, with a slightly changed side. Yannick Bru was loving it on the sidelines, and it looked like some of their players somewhere in like a relay or a or a garage or a service station somewhere between Pau and Bordeaux were enjoying proceedings. Did we ever find out where that was?
UBB. I think it was just a service station. But to be fair, also on Bordeaux, there was one pocket of the ground at the far end, basically bang opposite us, which was probably, so there's been a lot of chat about in the English media about these away ends for away fans. What they're aiming for is something like Bordeaux had. So there were Bordeaux fans like next to us, but there was one pocket, probably like one half of like a segment, one block basically, if that, it was all like maroon or Bordeaux or claret or whatever you want to call it. And they were going all game with the flags, and almost as soon as Bordeaux won the game, they were over to those fans to celebrate, and those fans were going mental. That they brought something to the atmosphere, because you could hear them from where we were. You could hear them throughout the game, and the players then went to go and celebrate with them immediately at the end of the game. So
yeah,
that is fair play to the traveller. And there were quite a lot of Bordeaux fans there anyway, similar amounts to kind of what we saw of Perpignan fans at Van, I'd say.
Right, should we leave? You are going to see Pau play again on Saturday, so we'll leave them there, and I'm sure we'll have some further on the ground footage from what I guess is normally a away game, isn't it, at the Real Arena against Bayonne in San Sebastian. We'll come back to that. Sunday night, massive game, El Clasico, and actual El Clasico, not the Semindico or the Old Firm derby or any of our other slightly hodgepodge derbies that we've come up with over the last season or so. Stade Toulousain and their youth done the business again away from home. How good are some of these young guys for Toulouse? They're just kind of running out of superlatives for the depth.
Well, it is the young guys, but I think like Malia has just been such a key cog in that. The fact that he does play and like ties it all together in those games is just testament to his versatility and his class. Like that, it was around this time last year, I was like, he's the best right winger in the world, because his finishing and just some of his classy finishing was amazing, and his defence. And then but internationally he plays fullback for Argentina, and in the game that they beat the All Blacks, and then he just slots in at 10 for Toulouse and runs the ship without Paul Grau, now without Antoine Dupont, without Peter Aki for quite a lot of these games. Like just unbelievable player, just running the show with these youngsters, and fair play to him. I don't think there was anyone that particularly stood out for me, really. I thought Remu.
Yeah, the Belgian lad,
their fifth choice, their fifth choice international fullback, who I thought was pretty impressive. He could have scored an absolute wonder try, but it was rightly called back from a knock on. But it's the collective. Like there was one point when I think it might have been when they were down to 14. Defensively, they pushed them all back from the 5 metre to the 22. Like I don't think I've ever seen that. And they're just such a well-oiled machine. What did you think? Go on. What did you? Who stood out for you?
Not much beyond that. Malia was exceptional. I really like. I don't think he had like a wildly impressive game, but moving forward, Hawks, who I think is moving to Provence, I really like. And we've spoken a fair bit about Verger and Banos in the pack, who have been. I mean, I think they're not. Is Banos a bit younger? Verger is not like a spring chicken, right?
About the same age as Brennan, I think.
Is it? Okay.
24. Yeah, I don't think
fair enough. I thought he was a little bit older than that. But they just look, as you said, it just looks so comfortable whenever they come in. And on Malia, it's kind of in my head, like this analogy I come up with is almost like he's kind of like the fun uncle or the fun cousin or something of Toulouse, like all the youngsters, like all the old bastards are in the other room, like with Roman Ntamack, and he's going to kick the corners and yada yada, and we'll be a bit structured. But then you get to go and play with like fun Uncle Juan, who's gonna just let you do it and unlock that kind of spirit and verve. And he's worth. I mean, there's almost a bit of a strange paradox, isn't there? In that he, at points this year, isn't in their strongest 15, and yet he is worth his weight in gold for his ability. Well, obviously because he can play at an international standard in three positions, but also because
If
of
not, I reckon he could play 13 as well.
probably, probably.
I think he has played 13 at Toulouse as well.
Yeah, so and in these periods where they go with their youth, really impressive. And leaves Stade.
What is their first choice back three? It's probably, well, not
Probably now
it's Capozzo,
Kinghorn,
and Ramos.
Yeah.
So it's probably Labelle, Kinghorn, or probably is now him. Probably is now Malia to go on the right wing instead of Capozzo.
With no Capozzo. But yeah, Stade are, well, looking ahead to a very important Paris derby this weekend because Racing lost away at Perpignan, which makes it an absolutely enormous game. Yeah, Racing,
they are
discipline just
36
kills them again.
Yeah. Although the highlights were it felt like a constant stream of watching Tommy Allen kick.
Yeah.
Like it was basically that. Although he did play a role in an unbelievable try that was a brilliant.
Incredible.
It was basically, it barely touches him, the offload. It's amazing. It's like a pop and give.
Yeah, brilliant, Racing, really ill-disciplined. A double yellow card, red card for Hambosi, which you don't often see, which is quite impressive. They gave away 2 penalties directly from the restart, both of which were 3 points.
Did you see the Hambosi yellows?
Yes, I did, yeah.
I think the first one is one of the clearer yellow cards because it's like 5 meter line. He's lying on the floor.
Fairly egregious.
The ball out and just places it. He places it as though he's the man that's been tackled. The second one is a little yellow, bit, isn't it? But it's like
it's unfortunate.
Bloke.
Yeah,
because it's a late movement. There's 2 players involved. It's a relatively passive hit, but head contact, and it's not like huge head contact, but head contact is head contact, and yellow card.
Yeah, agreed.
Racing were 22-7 down when Faz went off, and then suddenly they were suddenly miraculously back in the game after he went off. So just saying.
Yeah, although I was looking at this, he's played 15 games for Racing.
Has he?
And they've won 10 of the games he's played in.
Okay. Well,
but yes, this one
Champions Cup.
It does, yeah. But either way, massive win for Perpignan, put some level on points with Stade. And a big thing happened in this, a very big thing, and that is that Solo Tuolangi was back off the bench for about 7 minutes before he too joined the parade and got yellow carded. But yeah, I mean, that's amazing to see because that was a horror injury, wasn't it?
There was a photo that came out like a week or so ago that was making waves on social media. It's like, he looks like he could play number 8. He's really trimmed down. And I looked at him in this game and I was like, he is not looking trim.
Yeah,
like, he is looking still absolutely enormous.
Completely with you. Almost like, I don't know when the photo was taken or the angle or whatever, but when I saw then the highlights of this game, I was like, well, Solo Tuolangi's still an absolute unit. And maybe he's lost a little bit of the under 19s puppy fat, but he doesn't, people were talking about it as if he was, he'd like swapped bodies with like Hugo Oredu or fucking Capozzo or someone. Like the guy is still like the size of a fridge.
Tell you who is the size of a fridge, and that is his dad. I saw a photo of that on his social media, and he's still like twice the width of me. He's absolutely massive.
He's a joke, isn't he?
So the fact, because I think Pasolo is going to keep growing based on his dad.
Yeah, you would think so. We'll quickly, before we preview next week, a little bit of a roundup of best of the rest. Van, as we said last week, are now 6 points adrift. They got very little out of a trip to Cast in conditions that, well, I think it's understandable if there were some comms issues on the from the score box at Cast. At one point, it was 2-0.
On BBC Sport.
Genuinely looked like this was being played at night in a black and white film in 1960. I don't think I've seen gloom like this over a professional sports game.
That was what, 4:30 local time, that
4:30. It just, if you look at, and obviously, I knew you were getting soaked in Pau, so it was wet everywhere, but this genuinely looks like it's being played in a different time zone.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary.
At night. And Lafage, I think there was one. Lafage kicked a penalty on 7 minutes, and he is like, you can see through to his like under, like this the kind of bra that they all wear.
Yeah,
through that after 7
monitor.
Minutes. It's like, wow, that is wet.
Something
pretty good display from Cast to win by that amount.
Yeah, it was
a rare attacking bonus point at home.
A brilliant
one of the tries.
try, yeah.
One of the tries of the season, I reckon.
Certainly one of the best wet weather tries I've seen from it was Lebrun, I think, who finished it off, wasn't it? After a kind of burst and from Papali'i and then a little bit of hands. So yeah, good win for Cass.
Who did that and then scored another good try himself.
Goodhue was excellent again. He seems to be, hitting those all black heights, which is fabulous for them. Toulon beat Clermont despite managing to, I think, not score in the second half, which was quite some going for them.
Yeah, there was no points in the whole game after 46 minutes.
They
did miss 2 long-range penalties, both Daumont and then Jaminet.
Daumont, who I saw was brilliant, and he was up for Player of the Round, which is pretty cool.
Well, he set up a try for Sanzel, and Sanzel rolling back. Well, I don't know if he is. Yeah, he is. It showed a bit of gas.
I think he was in Midi Olympique's Team of the Week, Sanzel.
So was BLBRA though, so I'm starting to take that with a pinch of salt because he didn't do anything, mate, apart from one thing.
Important thing. And then I guess most importantly, and it's not Lyon beating Montpellier, most importantly and most miraculously, La Rochelle finally, after, is it 105 days, 108 days? It's over 100 days, isn't it? Finally have a win by a single point home to Bayonne. O'Gara looked, he was kind of doing that relieved laugh, which I think was covering up all manner of, I'm about to absolutely lose my Swede here. But yeah, they managed to hold off. I think Greg Aldrit, kind of 72nd minute, something like that, got over the line.
He was good, Aldrit.
Yeah, there was a fabulous try from Tiberian, who I also...
No, it's Habel Kufner that finishes it.
Habel Kufner after a
brilliant little
break.
dab from Seconds.
Chip through. Tiberian, who I'd never seen kicking, and looks like he strikes him really nicely with the left boot.
But he was kicking because Lopez got sin-binned, but then I don't know why he was kicking when Seconds came on, because Seconds converted the Habel Kufner try. So I don't know. And then he was kicking some long range stuff, but yeah, he went pretty well. I think Bayonne definitely got the rough end of the deal from the ref, as many a team does at Marcel de Flandre. Hastoy flawless off the tee. Did you see the contender for own try of the season, both in this game and the Montpellier game?
Oh, the Montpellier one, no, but the own try of the season was was this from the cross kick from Lopez? And is it Leeds who just nudges it back?
Well, he nudges it slightly forward. I don't know if he nudges it absolutely forward, but Teddy Thomas is coming across and thinks he's nudged it forward. So he kind of goes to get it and then realises that he might be offside and kind of like half chips it into the hands of Guillaume Martin, who just like dots it down. The Montpellier one is amazing.
Oh, I'll have to get onto that.
Martin Meliond is probably on the 22, taking a penalty about 5 meters to the right of the posts, hooks it, hits the post, it bounces back off the post, and I think it's Ngandebe basically fumbles it and kind of almost squeezes it through his own legs, and who is there to pounce on it and dot the ball down basically on the try line? It's Baptiste Couilloux. It is comical, because it was kind of like watching the penalty was like, oh my God, because it's a ridiculous miss, and then it's kind of, oh my God, as Ngandebe is fumbling it. And it was just comical, really, really comical. I think that's possibly better than the...
Do you reckon that's in the top 5?
Yeah, it's also a weird amount of these seem to involve Leon. Either way, don't know what it is about the Stade de Gerland.
Yeah, because that brilliant La Rochelle one was the interception in goal was at the Stade de Gerland, wasn't it? Fantastic stuff. It is, of course, Derby week, or fan weekend, I think it is now. The Toulon Van game rather blows a hole in the Derby moniker for round 26 of the top 14. But Rob, you're going to be our
round
man
22
on the ground again.
Round 22.
So I'm looking at, I've got Nationale in front of me.
It's also 26. It's the 26th of April, which is
26th
really
of April. Round 26 of Nationale regular season. There's a lot of 26 going on, so forgive me. 22nd round. You're going to be on the ground again. Do you want to start there?
Yeah. So Bayonne, they're taking their game with Pau to San Sebastian, as they have done 2 years ago when they were first back in the top 14, and the only home game they lost all season was the game they took to the Anoeta against Pau. Then they got hammered by Toulon last year, but then they dished out a hammering. So this is their second game in San Sebastian this season. The one against La Rochelle in the season seems quite odd now, given that they now have this Derby weekend game. At least they won that one, and they won it comfortably. But I think that probably says more about La Rochelle's away form than than anything that Bayonne have done particularly well in moving outside of Stade Jean Daugé. I am absolutely buzzing for it. Like San Sebastian, one of our, I think, probably favourite places, certainly one of mine. And to be there for Bayonne v Pau, the fact that Pau is like an added bonus, if it was La Rochelle, I'd probably be fine. But the fact it's Pau, I've bought my transport through, or bought our transport through the Bayonne website. Quite well. I don't think I'm quite on like kind of Bayonne bus, but yeah, might have to take the beret rather than the Section Paloise hat. The flags that I've picked up from Saturday, the multiple green and white flags, probably have to smuggle them in somehow. Jumper over the jumper over the Section Paloise t-shirt, all that sort of thing.
Go and get yourself one of those like full length subs coats to cover everything off, and then burst into full section gear. It should be a cracker. I'm very jealous. Although I as we were discussing the other day via WhatsApp, you can almost guarantee that in one of, if not the greatest food city in Europe, nay, the world, I bet it's going to be rat burger in the ground. That's my prediction.
Stadium food is going to be a hot dog, isn't it? Do you remember going to Gaul? I remember being so excited about the food in the ground in Sri Lanka, and it was literally only hot dogs. It's like, I've come all the way to Sri Lanka. I do not need just give me a basic dal or a samosa.
Yeah, in a former life before this podcast, we did travel to go and watch England play in Sri Lanka. 2018, I think it was.
Yeah,
there was some sort of deal, I assume, with a local or not local, but like some sort of conglomerate, and you could get a hot dog, or you could get what could only be described as like a really, really poor pot noodle type thing with like a hot dog on top of it. Yes, not ideal in somewhere where the cuisine is absolutely phenomenal, but there we go.
The reason why we are skeptical about what I'm going to get at the Anoeta, the Real Arena, is because a couple of years ago when we went to Matmut Atlantique, it was based. Well, I mean, it's a football stadium, to be fair, but you couldn't get a glass of wine. We were like guaranteed. It's like, we're in Bordeaux. We're going to be able to get a glass of wine. One of the girls with us can't have gluten, like really can't have gluten, so couldn't drink beer. And we were like, that's fine. There'll be wine in the stadium. There's definitely going to be wine. Absolutely nowhere to be found. Food was like basic jambon beurre, wasn't it? Or if that.
No, it wasn't even that. It was like a bizarre, like Parmesan chicken sandwich wrap thing, which was okay, but it was really odd. Like the whole thing was just extremely strange. But yeah, keep us posted, and at least at least I'm sure there'll be somewhere to take the edge off if the food doesn't meet the standards.
And obviously you spoke about being slightly disappointed at Chaban Delmas as well. Maybe it's just Bordeaux. Maybe we're being harsh on San Sebastian already without good reason. But yeah, possibly. I mean, I doubt that I'm going to need to be trying out the in-stadium food, just because the whole part of the day is, doing the classic Pinchos tours, hopping from restaurant to restaurant in San Sebastian, which is going to be epic.
Sounds terrible. You mentioned Bordeaux there. They host in the late kickoff La Rochelle on Saturday evening, which, given La Rochelle's recent travails, might not be quite as mouth-watering as perhaps it looked 6 months ago. Toulouse.
You'd imagine that'll be Lucu Jalibert.
You'd think so. I saw Maxime Lucu had a week off in the Maldives, so he'll be looking refreshed and feeling refreshed. One would hope. It looked like a fairly serious affair. The hotel he was staying at in the Maldives. Not too many budget constraints there. Toulouse v Castres. I think Castres will be very happy with their win over Toulouse, and there's the derby element and the proud kind of Tarn versus Toulouse, but I think they might be in for a little bit of a stuffing, I would have thought. And they might give a few guys a rest, particularly off the back of the 2 European weeks. Yeah, that's...
Although it's a local derby, I think it'll probably be quite a lot like the Pau game just before the last 16 of the Champions Cup, where they start all the big guns and then they check that they've kind of all clicked into gear again, and then they kind of start taking people off. But I think a lot of the big names, Ramos, Entamac, Grau is not a big name, but he's the key player now. Ramos, Entamac, Barassi, Gelange, Cross, Flamand. I think they'll all play, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned Grau there. So Saito went off with an injury against Stade Francais. So they are suddenly looking incredibly thin. And it feels like this was, I mean, I don't know how serious it is, but I don't know, maybe it's easier after the event, but it always felt a little bit risky not having some medical joker cover, particularly in that position. And
Yeah.
you also got Capozzo's out now as well.
Who was cover of sort.
I assume they may look to pull someone in. I don't know if you can do that now. Too late.
No, I think a medical joker is a medical joker. I think you can. They've not taken one in for Antoine Dupont, so they've kind of still got. Even if Saito's, I think you have to be a certain period of injury. So even if Saito's out for a couple of games, they wouldn't be able to bring one in for him. But they've still got the kind of medical joker for Dupont in the back locker.
It's more in terms of organising it and getting it done. It's probably we'll see. But I don't think as much as back my beloved cast anywhere. I'm not sure they'll get much change out to Toulouse this weekend. We mentioned it. Toulon in their derby go to Brittany. Van, who feels starting to feel a little bit now or never.
I think that is the longest away trip in the top 14, by the way.
It's a hell of a trek, isn't it? Could be. I mean, Van have been good at points at home, haven't they? And they've taken some big scalps and been ahead in others. It feels like it will ride on who Toulon send. They're still up there, aren't they, in that kind of battle for second come first, and I think they'll put the pressure on and see this as an opportunity to sneak one away from home.
It is the longest. It is 860 kilometers by car between Toulon and Vannes. You'd imagine that's a Marseille to Nantes job, wouldn't you?
I would have thought so. Yeah, I would have thought so. So yeah, Vannes probably have their work cut out, but you never know. What else is happening? Montpellier, Perpignan. That's quite nice and local.
Now.
Starts for I mean, it's a real Montpellier win that, and they can probably stop looking over their shoulder, or they can be sucked in and be pretty tight with Perpignan at the end, which is a lot of fun. And then Clermont host Lyon, who are 6th and 7th.
But poles apart, I'd say.
Yeah, Clermont have been
felt like that with because Lyon v Montpellier was 7th versus 8th, and it felt like they were going to be they're going in completely different directions at the moment. It feels pretty similar. Lyon versus Clermont feels like quite a similar game.
Yeah, I think you might be right on that. But all eyes, as we mentioned earlier, Racing host Stade Francais in the Paris derby on Sunday evening. It's always a big game, even if the La Défense doesn't always bring in the biggest crowds. I imagine this will probably be full to the rafters. And I kind of felt that, well, from the outset, I think when we covered the teams in the mire a few weeks back, I said Stade Francais felt like the ones to me that would find a way out, or I'd back to find a way out. And they struggled, and they've sort of flattered to deceive a bit again. Albeit they were close at Montpellier when they completely fucked it, for want of a more erudite expression, away from home. They're still right in the mire. And then Racing, who seems to have found a bit of form,
only away from home.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And it's been a particularly unintimidating place to play. So I couldn't tell you what's going to happen here. I'm going to go for more cards than kicks at goal is my prediction. That's the only thing I feel.
They are both terrible, aren't they?
Yeah, and in a game with such high stakes, it just feels like there could be some edginess in this one. Did you see it was Sekou Makalou's 30th birthday last week? Big one for the Makalunatics. I assume everyone sent him a postcard, but yeah, I couldn't tell you what's going to happen here.
I'm just looking at the rankings for the cards here. There are 5 players from Racing and Stade Francais in the top 10.
Excellent.
Woki is still leading the way. He was top at Christmas. It's it's like they say at Premier League, like if you're top or bottom at Christmas, maybe he'll make it. Van der Mesht, Pacenti, Hambosi, Makalou are the other players that. Hambosi, how's he only got one yellow and one red? That feels like something that probably.
Well, he's got them all in one game, hasn't he? He
already had a yellow.
He's got more cards than that in one game. He got 2 yellows and a red. So I don't know how that.
I think the red counts as white. I think the yellows from a previous game.
They get wiped. They don't get carried over.
Yeah.
No, fair enough. Should we leave the top 14 there, because we've got the very important business of Pro Day Deux to attend to?
Yes.
Okay, as hinted at just a moment ago, we have been staring down the calendar of Nationale, and it is the final weekend, and a little bit to play for. Chambéry are clear at the top and will finish top regardless. They're on 98 points, but they have to travel to Marc-en-Barœul, who sit in 12th on 54 points up there in Lille. They are 2 points adrift of Suresnes, who you would think are probably safe from the National Dirt barrage match, with Langon in 13th place on 51 points. Langon have to travel to Narbonne, who are on 91 points, and a win will secure a home semi-final and miss the barrage games. So you would think if it goes to form, Langon will be in that access match, but you never know. And I suppose the real intrigue is as to who's going to land themselves either a home semi-final or a home barrage game. You've got Albi on 84 points, Périgueux, our boys, on 86. Périgueux, who host Rouen, who are 3 points above them in third. So a huge amount riding on that game. Carcassonne hosts Suresnes. They'll be pretty confident of a home win there. And then, who did I mention? Albi. They've got to go to Bourg-en-Bresse, who are very much in the Netherlands. But it looks like Massiers, I think we highlighted a couple of weeks ago after a brilliant run, have been cut adrift. So the dream of all Paris clubs playing in Pro Day 2 next year is not alive because of Massy.
Well, and also Racing and Stade have actually been all right. So, yeah.
But it's still possible. Still possible they could.
So I reckon we are going to finish up in order. Chambéry, guaranteed first. Narbonne are going to finish second. I think Rouen Carcassonne are going to finish third.
Yeah.
I think Rouen will just about. I think there'll be a losing bonus, and so they'll stay on 90. Périgueux will get to 90, and
Rouen have superior points difference.
Yeah. So Périgueux will finish in fifth, and they'll play each other again in the barrage the following week, and Albi will finish sixth, even though they play someone rubbish. Oh no, they play Bourg-en-Bresse away, so they've actually probably got the toughest fixture if you take out the head-to-head of Périgueux versus Rouen. And you'd have to think Langon would go to Narbonne and lose.
And struggle, yeah.
With 3 points to make up, it's a winner. They need to win that to have any chance.
Yeah, 100%. We'll keep an eye out.
And I think in Nationale 2, on the way back, we'll go really down the leagues. I'm pretty sure all four teams are from the northwest or west. It's kind of central west, central northwest. So you've got Orléans, Rennes, Niort, and it might even be Nantes or someone else like that. But yeah, Rennes and Orléans were dominated their league. And I think Niort, which is kind of near La Rochelle, between La Rochelle and, what else is up there? Between La Rochelle and Vannes, I think.
Are Rennes our Nationale 2 team, given we saw them getting the train down to Geneva for their game at Servette when we were going to Vannes?
Wow, Jacob Botica plays for Orléans.
Okay.
Brother of friend of the pod.
Brother of friend of the pod.
And I think Orléans have quite good kit as well. Whereas I'm not sure about the black and white of Rennes.
Which is very important.
Yeah.
Lovely little segue into Pro Day there. And that's probably the main talking point from the weekend is that our boy Soy-en-Galem had a little bit of a nightmare round, losing at home to Montauban, who have now sort of usurped them into the sixth place, I think. Or they might be a bit higher than that now, but they're certainly in the barrage spots.
Sixth. 1 point ahead of Soy-en-Galem. But I mean, and it's without Benny Botts. Benny Botts is out for the season after a broken collarbone a couple of weeks back against Nice. And you just watching them play at the moment, it feels like they could do with just a steadying hand on the tiller, just a little bit. What were they? They were 18-6 up in this, I think, 18-5 up in this game, and lost 19-18 with like half an hour to go. They were kind of up by 13 points, and they just looked like headless chickens. It was very harem scarum defense, like people running and over chasing, and yeah, they are a very young squad. They just need, there's a few old heads in there, but they just need a Ben Botica to kind of calm them all down, I think. And they don't have someone of that caliber to come in. There are very few players of that caliber to come in the league, but yeah, that's at
this point in the season as well.
Yeah, we are now kind of with 3 games to go, and it is fascinating their derby game. So it's derby round in Pro Day 2 as well. So they go to Agen, and they've actually got a very good away record. Agen kind of not got a lot to play for now. I say that they're only 5 points above Aurillac, so they do have something to play for. Saxby have got some interesting fixtures. They've got Agen away, Oyonnax at home, Valence from Mans away. So on paper, they're like three very weak teams, all very winnable, but also all very losable.
Such is Pro Day there.
Well, yeah. Whereas Montauban's the interesting one because they have basically their two other. So they've had 3 weeks in a row, the three teams around them. So they've now got Colomiers, and then they've got Béziers the following week, and then they go to the Lac in the final game. But yeah, the fact that they've kind of had it all in their own, I was kind of thinking, well, it doesn't matter because they're kind of having a bit of dip in form. But that is a very, very good win to kind of snatch that relatively late on against Saxby and put it back into their own hands because they've now got that 1 point advantage over Saxby. That means it is in their hands because they've got some tough fixtures, but two of them are at home. One is actually a home game at Ernest Vallon, but to have Béziers at home as well is pretty good. And who knows what might be happening with Aurillac come last game of the season.
Yeah, the game at Ernest Vallon I saw earlier, they've Montauban themselves have sold 10,000 tickets. So
that I assume that was the whole thing.
I'm pretty sure it was just them. It was the green it was the green and whites. They were saying of 10,000 green and whites, unless they're just making a rogue assumption that everyone who's bought a ticket for the game is a Montauban fan. Some sort of Colomiers boycott going on. But yeah, we'll see about that. Did you manage to, obviously rare treat being in France, did you actually manage to catch any of this live in the flesh? Well, not in the flesh, but in a bar?
I caught about 20 minutes of the early Friday evening kickoff, which was Nevers hosting Biarritz, which was a bit of a random one to have a bit of a showpiece. And actually, when we left it, Biarritz were up, and then they lost 35-15, but not much to write home about other than it looked like very nice weather in Nevers. And also kind of the lads commented like, that's a pretty big stadium for second division rugby. And it is, like it looks like it was sold out. It looked like really busy. Biarritz wore a black kit that I'm not sure about, like little tinges of green and red, quite kind of 2009 era Canterbury when they kind of were like that. Everything had that kind of same trim. But yeah, the bits I saw, Biarritz looked quite powerful and looked pretty good. But that obviously kind of didn't come to pass in the end as Nevers rolled them over. But I didn't manage to watch any of Brive versus Aix-en-Provence. I was too busy going to Nabu-Conor-d'Ossor.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. Brive, who I think from what I could see, kind of overpowered Provence a bit. I was following the Provence kind of live stream on Twitter, or like the live text feed is quite good, like a little bit more descriptive than others. And it seemed quite nip and tuck, and I watched a few highlights, but it looked like they were slightly overpowered in the end. Provence, who Thomas Francis was back playing, who'd missed
first time in ages.
Something like, I think it's his first since the 5th round, which I kind of, I don't know, like snuck under certainly my radar. And that's a big hole for Provence in the middle of your season, your kind of star tight head. So yeah, I mean, good to see that he's back at the right point of the season, but they've now opened up a 7-point gap over, an 8-point gap over Provence, and a 7-point gap over third place, which is now Colomiers, who absolutely dusted Agen in the Thursday night game, and appeared to be going very nicely. Yeah,
they are kind of all of the cliches that you might say about a team that's consistently putting lots of points on the board. They are playing with confidence. Lots of interplay. There's very quick passing, great lines of running, very great speed of ball, all that stuff. But what I found interesting about this one was the selection. So they've got 2 Portuguese wingers, and neither of them played on the wing. So I've got to get it the right way around now. Vincent Pinto played 15. And Rodrigo Marta played 13. Vincent Pinto was absolutely brilliant. But that also allows them to get Tua Tavaki, who has been a bit of a stalwart on the wing, as a kind of big, robust winger that's kind of always on hand to finish off tries. He must be doing pretty well on the try scoring rankings, because I feel like he's scored loads recently. And then Martin Alonso is kind of more of a nippy winger on the right wing, but it gives them so much pace when you've basically got 4 wingers in your back line who are 4 of your kind of international. I think Martin Alonso is a Spanish international, so they've got some real good quality there as well. And then Ray Nutu, who's I think he's Kiwi, I'm going to say the centre, he's been a bit of a stalwart for them as well, gives them a bit of grunt, bit of go forward. Him and Caleb Timu, who are the kind of go forward guys for Colomiers, from what I can tell this season. I think both of us would kind of acknowledge that neither of us know loads about Colomiers, given that they're now in third.
Yeah.
we've not done our due diligence. I would have done some great due diligence had this game been arranged on a bloody Friday night.
Yeah, it was particularly bad luck that you've landed poorly.
Yeah.
Fortunately, your luck, we'll get onto it in a bit, but your fixture luck appears to have taken a bit of a turn, right, for this coming weekend. But yes, very impressive stuff from Colomiers. Grenoble beats Stade de Hameau 47-17, which is to be expected. Oyonnax got a pretty convincing win, 43-17, and an important win because it just nudges them a couple of points. I think 3 points ahead of the likes of Argennes, and opens up a little bit of
clear of 15th now. That's
think,
a huge gap. With 3 games, right. You'd hope that they wouldn't. I mean, they've still got such a grim run in. It is Grenoble away, Saxeville away, Provence at home, which is still 3 very losable games, and that could 100%. be 0 points as well. So they're not out the woods, but we'll see.
Massive. And to get the bonus point as well is big, I think, in this one.
Yeah, because that does give them that kind of full 8 points. And I think while they might not pick up any more points, I think the teams below them might not be capable of getting, Aurillac might not be capable of getting the 8 points that they need.
Yes, you may well be right. A bit of a statement's the right word, but a big performance from Zach Holmes as well, who scored a try, load of penalties, those conversions. I think it was 23 points in this game, having been, was it last week or the week before?
He got hooked last week.
After 28 minutes. And I did see that the Oyonnax social media folk put out a very effusive message, almost, I don't know, it felt a little bit like, back Zach kind of thing.
Back Zach, don't crack. Yeah.
Back Zach, don't crack.
Borrowed from one of our friends' podcasts
about with cricket.
Entirely different subject of Zach Crawley.
But yeah, really good from him. Also, a word, I know we've spoken about him before, but the figures here are quite extraordinary. So his opposite number at 10, Valence, Lucas Meret, who's had quite the season and is now...
He's absolutely miles ahead.
He scored 293 points. And the behind him, Duplessis down at Mont-de-Marsan is 102 points behind him.
Well, there's 2 people above him. There's 2. So Duplessis is now in 4th. Bosviel is 2nd on 194 and Davies is 3rd on 192. So basically the rest of the pack, and then Sean Reynolds at Nevers is 187. So they're all within 7 points of each other.
It's pretty remarkable.
And Meret is 99 clear of the highest scoring one of those, which is, it is. And he's not scored a try.
Yeah, extraordinary.
Even Bosviel scored a try.
I'm looking at, the reason I've got that order wrong is I'm looking at the goal kicking tally. Whereas, as you say, Bosviel, what's he got in there? He's got 1 try, 189 kicked points. Davis 2, and so on and so forth.
Davis, who showed a bit of attacking flair, kind of going from deep.
Yes, lovely little turn of pace, fleet foot. Have we done Predator? What else have we? Dax beat Aurillac, beat the Lac, who are still getting just kind of hanging in there.
I think we need to stop backing them. They've not done well since we started backing the Lac. So if we do crack and don't back the Lac,
sack the Lac,
maybe the turnaround will come.
I can't do that.
Everyone wants to see. I don't think anyone wants to see Aurillac.
No, absolutely not.
Apart from maybe Mont-de-Marsan fans and Argennes fans and Biarritz fans.
Very possibly. Moves us nicely then to Derby weekend. And this, I think, is very much kind of proper Derby stuff.
Well, there's one, which is the first one I'm going to, which is they've shuffled that out onto the Thursday evening, which is the Béziers versus Biarritz, which is a Pyrenean derby of sorts, I guess, but or Battle of the Bees, battle of the teams that have plummeted. But it's a pretty key game for both teams. Biarritz are 7 clear of Aurillac, and they also don't have a great run in because they have Béziers at home, Provence away, Colomiers at home. So they play 3 of the top 6 in their last 3 games. Obviously, they have been quite good themselves at point this season, but they've also been quite bad at points this season. And they could do with picking up a win in one of those. It could well be the Béziers one. Béziers haven't travelled all that well this season. They're 6th best away team in the league. But it feels like Béziers or Provence could be the one that they kind of pick up a win with. So it should be a good game. They both need to win because Béziers are only 1 point. They're level with Montauban on 17 and they're only 1 point ahead of Soy and Golem. So they themselves need that to lock in that barrage place. And they have Montauban away, followed by Brive at home. So they've got two tough ones to finish on as well. So they've both got tough fixtures. They both need a win. It should actually be pretty good. And I imagine it's going to be I think it should be sold out. Tickets were running low-ish when I bought them a couple of weeks ago. So
amazing. That'll be quite something, because last time we went, it was sparse.
Yeah, and it was like 3 degrees, if that.
That is very true. Elsewhere, Nice host Provence, which, Nice has been all right at home recently, so you never know. Aurillac host Brive. That is like a real derby, and one that we were at the reverse leg earlier in the season. Would love to see Aurillac sneak through that one somehow. Keep our fingers crossed.
Montauban men versus boys, though, didn't it, when we were there in their first game of the season?
It did.
The reverse fixture.
Desperate men versus rich boys. You never know. It could work in their favour. Montauban hosts Colomiers, technically at the Stade Ernest-Vallon. Well, it is at the Stade Ernest-Vallon, but technically they host them. Grenoble Oyonnax. I think a win for Grenoble confirms, if it hasn't done so already, pretty much their home or a home semi-final. Yeah, probably expect them to get the job done. Valence Nevers. Saxe-Via Argent, which you mentioned, that feels winnable, doesn't it? And also could kind of nudge Argent a little bit back, looking over their shoulder, which they are already. And then the big derby, though, you're going to be at as well, down in Lond.
The Lond derby, which is the one that I'd say both of us in Pro D would really, really want to go to, because it's supposedly pretty spicy. I saw it actually in the newspaper Sud-West in a place called Bruges yesterday, which was basically a medieval town that hasn't been updated since the 13th century. And there was a little cafe that we went into, and it had a little newsstand there. And there was a little advert in one of the pages for the Lond derby, Derby Londaise, Mont-de-Marsan versus Dax, in a nice yellow and black poster. I'm pretty sure Russell Westbrook is going to be there as well, supporting Mont-de-Marsan. I'm pretty sure Teo Atasogbe's got him VIP tickets. So, and actually, we're going to drive back after the game. We're picking up Teo Atasogbe,
giving him a lift.
He's going to stay with us and then get the train with us down, or the bus and then the train down with us on Saturday morning.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to the report from that one. I think Mont-de-Marsan.
And let's be honest, Richard, you're looking forward to the photos from the stash shop, because
the yellow and black kit is just so good. Just that kind of toxic waste approach. I'm all for it. Yeah, keep us posted. Also, I forget his name, but her name, the Mont-de-Marsan mascot, I've done a bit of research on, is one of the looser ones going around. I've seen various footage of him abseiling, riding a motorbike on the pitch.
What is he?
Is he a horse or like a cow or something?
Maybe.
Oh God,
sounds about right for the lawn area.
Yeah, maybe a bull or something like that, because they bullfight, don't they? In Dax, there's a big bull ring.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
which is maybe not one for the list, but there we go. Very jealous of your trip. Shall we wrap that there and come back with very brief petty thoughts? Okay, we'll keep this to digestifs only, because we spoke in great detail about various red meats that Rob was imbibing at the Pau game. So I feel like we've had our culinary fill. Elsewhere, things that caught my attention both today, actually. So Toulouse have decided they don't have enough kits and have released, in collaboration with the European National Space Agency, a space rocket, Cosmos, whatever it is, themed
in
kit.
Conjunction, it's a collab with astronaut Thomas Pesquet, who has done 2 space missions.
I didn't see that bit. The shirt itself is actually quite smart, but it feels like quite a random time to be pulling them out, unless the plan was for that crew of like Jeff Bezos' wife, Katy Perry, etc., to wear them on their mission to space last week,
and they just missed the boat.
And they've just missed it. Yeah,
like serious cricket,
which was
little joke for anyone that plays cricket in Surrey there.
Or cookery back in the day. Yeah, so that is quite fun. And then the other thing that caught my eye was, you mentioned Nolan Le Garrec earlier and his histrionics which didn't go down particularly well. But in slightly better Le Garrec news, Goulven Le Garrec has extended his time as one of the coaches at Van to 2028. So some slightly more positive publicity for the Le Garrecs after Nolan's absolute howler at the weekend.
I did see that Fritzer has now been freed. Spitzer
Has
has
he?
been freed. Yeah. He was on the touchline, and I don't know whether he was better off or worse off. The Musto cap was, I don't know whether it was helping, the fact it's a seaworthy cap, whether that was helping with the downpour. On other sartorial news linking from, so we've filled up another spot in the sartorial 15. I've got another one for you, one of the wings, because wearing a nice kind of cream/oat Montclair fleece with some blue trimmings was Gabin Villiers at the Felix Mayol on Saturday, fresh from his dropped bomb last week. He was wearing a very, very nice fleece.
Very expensive fleece.
I think it was Montclair. It was that sort of vibe. But he looked pretty sharp. Also, just a few random things from my trip. As you know, as I told you on the flight, I was sat next to the girlfriend of Johnny McPhillips, she was over for Easter, enjoying a weekend off as they prepare for Nationale. Johnny McPhillips with Carcassonne. Also, we bumped into a former Exeter Chiefs women's player who now plays at Pau. She was unable to confirm whether any news about the men's initiation at Exeter. I was like, do you know anything about the famous initiation?
Yeah, there's some dark rumours about that, aren't there?
Yeah. She was slightly horrified when I mentioned them. After our bike ride yesterday, as I've mentioned, I was kind of more in the Mathieu Bastereau mould. If you've seen the photos of him doing a bit of cycling, squeezed into some cycling tops recently, we were approached by a guy called Christophe Agnolotto, he was looking at us and eventually came over to ask if we wanted to eat, because he was apparently just the restaurant owner of a local restaurant, smoking his dart, and was like, "Oh, I love cycling. I won a stage of the Tour de France." And we were like, "What?" He was like, "Google it." He's like typed in his name in his phone.
Wow.
And he won. Wow. It's incredible, actually. So he's like there, like he looks quite lean still, but the fact that he looks quite different to his cycling days, and the fact that he's just chuffing away really cracked me up.
That's
incredible. He won a stage in 2000 in the pre-helmet era, I think it was. But he won by 8 minutes and broke away in a 110-kilometer race. He was the leading breakaway for 80 kilometers. So he's basically done it all solo, just gone on a mad one. Like it was kind of basically kind of a run-of-the-mill kind of all his other stages that I don't think he finished above 40th in the other stages that year, but he's won a Tour de France stage. He's got it in the locker. So yeah, cycling absolutely everywhere in Pau, it would seem.
That is incredible and feels like a suitable note to end on. So, Rob, enjoy the rest of your French venture. We look forward to hearing the ins and outs of Biarritz, Mont-de-Marsan and San Sebastian next week. In the meantime, you can follow us on all the usual socials at Rosbiff Rugby. Give us an email, rosbiffrugby@gmail.com. And in the meantime, au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.